Okay, 6, 5, 6, 7, review. First step on number 1, you add 6 to both sides. So we get square root 2x plus 8. Equals 2. Then we square both sides. So then we get 2x plus 8 on the left. And we get 4 on the right. And then it's just simple algebra from there. Subtract the 8. Divide by 2. So you get 2x equals negative 4. When you divide the 2, you get x equals negative 2. And remember, you get one answer, so you don't have to check. You're good. So if you guys want to take, I'll post this as well as post like the solutions I do here, as well as the video, so you can take a picture if you want, but you can also just look at it. You good? Alright, this little joyous one. So you want to think, I'm trying to get the radical by itself, right? In this case, it's fifth root. So to get it by itself, first step I have to do is subtract the 3. Then we get 2 times the fifth root. And then I'm going to write this differently, or we'll leave it for now. And then I can divide by 2. Oh, x plus 6, thank you. X plus 6 under there. Then divide that 2, both sides. And I get fifth root. This is where I'm going to rewrite it. So this 3 is outside here because I can cube root 8. Right? You don't have to do it that way. It's just easier to do it that way. So I'm taking the x plus 6 out of the parentheses. And I'm changing the parentheses so that 3 is there, because my next step now would be to cube root the whole thing. So when you take an odd root, you do not have plus or minus, you just have whatever that is. And remember to take cube root on your calculator, it's math number 4 to do cube root, in case you don't know what the cube root 8 is. But we end up with fifth root of x plus 6 equals 2. And then we just raise everything to the 5th power. 2 to the 5th is 32. So we get x plus 6 equals 32. And just subtract the 6 from both sides, so x equals 26. So as always, you can take pictures of those if you want. Alright, so this little view. Water balloon holds 381.7 cubic inches of water. What's the diameter in inches of the balloon? Round to the nearest hundred. So they give you the formula, that's nice. We want to solve for diameter, so I'm going to solve this equation for d. Again, you could just plug the 381.7 in for v and solve it that way. I just like solving the equation for the variable I'm looking for first better. So to get rid of 1 divided by 6, I'd multiply by 6. Then we get d cubed pi equals 6v. I'm trying to get that d by itself, right? So I'm just dividing out the pi. The hardest part about this problem is putting it into your calculator correctly. So you get d cubed equals 6b over pi, and then we can just cube root both sides. We're taking an odd root, so you do not need plus or minus. So we use an odd number. So d equals cube root of 6b over pi. So all we have to do is plug the 381.7 in for the v. Yeah.
Are you going to record this and put on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's recording. So I'm going to plug that in, and then it's important on the calculator. I'll show you what happens. So 6 times 381.7 in the numerator. Got to put that in parentheses, and then divide it by pi. V is 381.7 from the problem. It gives you the volume. So we're just plugging that in, that's all. And then when we do graphing calculator on that one, you just clear all this out. So we go, you should do this on your graphing calculator, make sure you get the same answer. So math number 4 to do the cube root. And then, so I'm going to build the parentheses for any of your calculators. So you have to go double parenthesis at the beginning. And then we're doing 6 times 381.7. So I'm just closing that first parenthesis because I want my graphing calculator to multiply these two numbers first and then divide it by pi. You do have a pi button. You go second caret to divide that pi, and then I close that final parenthesis. So closing that final parenthesis will multiply the numerator, divide it by pi, and then cube root that answer, and you get 8.9999 or 9. Okay? So double parenthesis at the beginning, make sure you close it at the end, and I will copy this to this thing as well. Yeah.
So if I could do it without the extra other function.
Just depends on your calculator. Like if you have Amanda's calculator, hold that thing up. If you got that TI-83, you got to do this double parenthesis thing. And then it depends which TI-84 you have, whether or not you have to do the parentheses. So if you get scared about doing that thing, and then I'll get to your question, you can just do it piece by piece. So you could go 381. Right, so I could multiply those two numbers first, divide that by pi, and then cube root that number. So then we go math, number 4, second, negative. We'll take the previous answer. So you can do it a little piece by piece like that as well, just so you know. Yes? Yes, so diameter is a linear measurement, right? So it's just inches. So D equals 9 inches. Just like that.
Is part of the test when they're going to go look for formulas to solve those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Legendary.
Okay, number 4. What's the first step? Square both sides. Good. So we're going to square both sides. When you square that, you have to square both parts. And then the square makes the square root go away. So we get 25x squared on the left. And we get 10 plus 15x. So it's screaming at you to divide out a GCF. What's a GCF? 5. So let's get rid of that 5 right away. Why not? Makes it easier. Again, if you... Can you what?
Can you 5x? No.
Nope, yeah, because it's ended, nothing else. So divide it out, right? It'll still work if you don't divide it out. It's just smaller numbers. So you get 5x squared equals 2 plus 3x. And then anytime you see that squared term, you want to get everything on that same side. So I'm going to subtract 2 and 3x. I had a kid last period ask, why don't you just subtract the 5x squared? I just find it difficult to factor when you have a negative x squared term. So I always try to keep that positive. So you get 5x squared. Remember to write it in standard form. So the x comes first and then the negative 2 comes next. And now we've got the number in front, so that tells me I have to do the full Indian with the two fractions as well. So we'll do that off to the side. A times c up top. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. Negative 3 on the bottom is 5 and 2, the 5 being negative. And then we take that whole 5x squared term and make it the numerator of two fractions. And we take the sides of the cross, so negative 5 goes below with an x, 2 goes below with an x, and then we just reduce those two fractions and that makes our parentheses. So the 5 and negative 5 cancel to 1 and negative 1. The squared and the x always cancel. So we get x minus 1 and 5x plus 2. Remember, they still equal 0. So this one we're getting the two answers, so we have to check for extraneous. So x minus 1 equals 0, 5x plus 2 equals 0. I add 1, subtract 2. So on the left one, we get x equals positive 1. On the right equation, you get 5x equals negative 2. And then divide that 5 out. So x equals negative 2/5. And you could, because this is a terminating decimal, I always find it easier to check if you just make the decimal. You don't want to do it with repeating decimal, like 1/3 is 0.3 repeating. But if that decimal stops after the 4, you can plug that in when you double check. So we're going to plug in 0.4 and 1, negative 0.4 and 1, to the original problem way the hell up there. So 5x equals 10 plus 15x. And we're plugging in x equals, it was positive 1 and negative 0.4. So plug those in separately. 5 times 1 equals square root of 10 plus 15 times 1. So you get 25 there, square root of 25 is 5. So 5 equals 5. That one works. So the 1, right, you can put a little check by it, cross it out if it doesn't work. I can also just tell right here, right, I can see you plug in the 1. So I know for sure that you know 1 works. Let's plug in the negative 0.4. So I've got to do 15 times negative 0.4 and 5 times negative 0.4. So you get negative 2 and negative 6. So 10 minus 6 is 4. Square root of 4 is not. Negative 2 is positive 2. So the 1 works and the negative 0.4 does not. Alright. Let's do this one. What's the first step? Not -8. That's what you meant to say, right? Sorry. Alright, so add that 8 over. Hold on, I'm just going to recalibrate this real quick. Straighten you up. Try to take my aggression out on my students. Start to practice. Okay, so we end up with square root 3x plus 28 equals x plus 8. What's the next step? Square both sides. So anytime you have a binomial like I do on the right side, right? Binomial 2 terms like x plus something, x minus something, you always have to box. Do not distribute the 2, right? So when we box x plus 8 and x plus 8, got a little Johnny Cash going right there. No, it's not. Sounds like it. X plus 8. X plus 8. So you end up with 3x plus 28 on the left side. On the right side, you end up with x squared plus 16x plus 64 on the right side. And then anytime you see that x squared, you always got to get all the stuff over to the x squared side. You do that by subtracting 3x and 28 over to the right side. And you end up with 0 equals x squared plus 13x plus 36. So then you got to do the cross, right? Not the fraction part, because we don't have a number in front of the x squared. So we still do the cross. 36 on top, 13 on the bottom. What goes on the sides? 9 and 4. So 0 equals x plus 9 and x plus 4. So when you don't have a number in front of the x squared, you can go right from the sides of the cross to the parenthesis. And then we just set each parenthesis equal to 0. Subtract everything over, you get x equals negative 9 and negative 4. And then I'm going to plug it in. Right, so negative 9 and negative 4, I want people to catch up right now, I'll give you a minute. Okay, so we're going to plug that in. So square root, plug it in, x equals negative 9 and negative 4. So 3 times negative 9 plus 28 minus 8. See if that equals negative 9. So here we get square root of 1. 28 minus 27 is 1. Minus 8 is not negative 9. 1 minus 8 is negative 7. Right, so that one does not work. Then it's good to think like the other one will probably work. Did you have a moment? Because it says minus 8.
Why did you not add it over the negative 9?
You could if you want.
I did but I didn't get that from the answer.
So if I add 8, I would have -1 over here, and it's still not equal to that side. You get 1 on this side and -1 on the other. So as long as you end up with two numbers not equal to, that tells you it doesn't work.
But I got 1 and 1.
I know. Oh, you should have got -1. Or when you add the 8 over here, right, -9 plus 8 is -1. It's just that little mistake. Okay, so plug in -4. So square root of 3 times -4 plus 28 minus 8 equals -4. Right, so the reason I didn't add that 8 over, Kaylee, is because it's all numbers over here, right? So I can just simplify the left side. You can also add the 8 over, it's fine, if you like doing it that way better. So we get square root of 16 minus 8 equals -4. 4 minus 8 is -4, so that one does work. And it is not looking incorrect. So -4 equals -4. Number 6, you definitely want to pay attention to this one. This one, what I think is the hardest question on the test. You say yay, because I'm going to dominate.
I don't feel very
You will. I have faith in you, Anna. You got to add it over? Oh, X to the 1/2? Yeah. We'll get your confidence back, Sophie. You got it. Just that test shakes you, right? When all of a sudden you don't have the 100 anymore, you're like,
yeah.
You won't. You'll do it today.
I'm willing to do that. If I ever D, I'm going to yell at you.
Okay. As long as you yell at yourself first.
Okay.
You could always yell at me, I can take it. Okay.
Oh, God.
You gotta box that bitch. Here's how you box it. You have to, because there are 2 of these, right? That's what the square means.
But if you box it, then that would be an X.
Yes, it would. In the upper left, it is an X. Right, it's square root of X squared, which is X, right there. And then you multiply 2 times square root of X to get 2 square root of X. Same thing down here. So there's the box. Square root of X times square root of X is square root of X squared, which is X. So what we have left is 2x plus 4 on the left. And we have x plus 4 square roots of x plus 4. So now, as soon as you get to this piece, what you're trying to do, like your objective, you're trying to isolate the radical. So if those little kind of notes help you, then write it down. If you don't need to write this, then don't. It's fine. We're trying to isolate the radical. So we do that by subtracting the x and the 4. And it's kind of nice because it cleans up quite well. You just have x on the left and 4 square roots of x on the right. I'll slow down. Yep.
What is that weird ass fucking
What is that weird ass F and
No,
thing out of?
the bottom left box?
Oh, right here, that's supposed to be +2. It's just kind of weird.
So why is that plus 2?
Because we're boxing next, right? You're good. What is that weird ass? So now, what do we do? Square both sides. Make sure you distribute that square to both parts. That's like the mistake some students will make right there. So you end up with x squared equals 16x. Okay? And then we can subtract that 16x over and factor that. Because you need two answers, right? So if I divide the x, it just goes away.
But why do you need to ask?
Because it's squared. The square means you have two answers, so you have to have two answers.
I divided by 4 and then multiplied by
You could divide by 4 and square it. You just end up with 16 in the bottom.
Why bring up x 4 and x 4? Why can you go that?
Because I'm trying to isolate the radical. This is the radical right here. So I'm trying to get that part by itself. So I'm going to subtract the 16x over. Yeah, your method will still work, Henry. It's just a little more confusing is all.
Yeah, that's what I thought I had done it. I thought I did it wrong. That's why.
Because you ended up with 0 and 16. Is your two answers?
No, I just thought.
Okay. You're like, enough. So you factor out that DCF. In this case, it is x. So our parenthesis then is x and x minus 16. And then set each part equal to 0. So x equals 0, x minus 16 equals 0. I hope that gets onto the recording, John. It'll be hilarious. So we add that 16 over, so x equals 16. Over here, x equals 0. So there are my two answers. Then we got to plug that bitch in.
Oh, no.
I know. Check. Oh, look at that. That is some rock solid beauty right there. Love that. That's the best. It's my favorite class to teach is Algebra 2. Because it's challenging, and I like teaching you challenging stuff and having you learn it, and then you do it, and I'm like, that's so cool. Taught you how to do that. All right, so x equals 0, x equals 16. Let's plug those in. Yeah, check stuff over here. Yes. One more time. Minus 0 equals 2. Six minus 4 is 2, so you're good. You ladies are good.
I'd wait.
Which part?
All of them.
So 2 times 16 is 32, plus 4 is 36. Square root of 36 is 6. Square root of 16 is 4. So 6 minus 4, 2. 2 equals 2. Right side, you end up with square root of 4 equals 2. Square root of 4 is 2. So they both work. You just double check on that side, I guess. Anytime you have the two answers, you got to check. Okay? Use your words. I know, I could tell. Yeah, just goes away, means nothing. Just the eye candy on the problem. I know that's how you think of it. Yeah, of course. All right, we good on this? Can I move on? Yeah. Okay, we got a couple still cranking. Yeah, take your break. It's recorded, right? So if you need to take a break and just watch that little piece of the recording later. Okay. Now we're adding them. These are the easy ones. Be happy.
No.
You see these and you're like, oh, I add things? Yay. Negative 5x minus 4 plus 6x minus 7. All we got to do is combine like terms.
Now, why do you know that?
Why do I know that? Because it tells me to add them, and I have two x's, so I've got to combine them, right? Because you got to simplify.
Okay.
So right here, if you need a little helpful hint, combine like terms. So again, I said this yesterday, but your test, right, so reflect on 2 days of review with your Chapter 5 test and how that Chapter 5 test went. And if it didn't go as well as you had hoped, you got to change something. So changing something would be asking more questions in class. We're going over the whole review, so that's good. You could come to access time today as well, because I'll post another version of this. Right, so version 2 of the review with answers if you want to check. It'll just be like multiple choice answers, right? It'll be in the same order, yeah. I'll probably, I don't know if I can even take a question out, because I think it's pretty comprehensive. Like it covers everything I want it to cover, but I'll think about that.
Think about it.
Think about it. Take more off. So combining like terms, right? I can combine the purple highlight with the green, I can't speak either, Amanda. Not just you. Not just you. So negative 5 plus 6 is x. Negative 4 minus 7. That's it.
So easy.
So that's your final answer.
So not me.
Come on. So it says add, right? Did you add? Yes, you added, so you know you're done.
So that's just saying F plus E.
Right? So I just added them.
X's don't mean chicken meat, it must be X back.
No. No. Just add it. Okay, now we're just subtracting. So 4x minus 5 minus. So you've got to distribute the negative into the parentheses.
Why did you put the parentheses in there?
Because I'm subtracting both the 6 and the negative 3. Right, I'm subtracting that whole binomial. So distribute the negative into the second parenthesis.
Okay. Then why did you put a parenthesis around before X minus 5?
Doesn't matter, because there's nothing to distribute in front. There's nothing I can distribute from, you know, I can't distribute that. It distributes like that.
Is that always true?
Yes. It's just like when you're doing the long division and we have the 3 switches, same thing here.
Okay.
So we end up with 4x minus 5
Okay.
minus 6x plus 3.
Oh, I'm not gonna.
And then again, we're just combining like terms. So the negative 5 and the 3, and then the 4x minus 6x will combine to get negative 2x minus 2. Done. Right, these are the ones you're thankful for that I put, because that's a 4-point question. You should get that. Like 100% should get that. Now we multiply. Again, no big deal. Domain is going to be all reals for any multiplication. The only time it's different is when you do the division. Right, so here we're just going to box 3x plus 2 times 7x plus 6.
So it's just multiply over box.
Always box, yeah. Especially binomial, right? 2 terms. So we get 21x squared plus 14x plus 18x plus 12. So 21x squared plus 32x plus 12.
Is that your final answer?
That's it? It's a high school kid way to make it harder than it actually is, right? So it's like accept the math and make it easy. It's not that easy, right? You guys all know how to do that. You just combine, you do know how to do it. I've seen it graded a lot of stuff. from all of you guys. That is not what I'm going to do. So we can combine these two to get this. Okay, next one we're dividing. So 3x minus 6 over x minus 2. Step 1, when we learned this in class, was to factor everything. Step 1, in highlighter, it's not helpful. I did change it, it was on Tuesday.
Are you gonna be here Tuesday?
Yes, I'll be here Tuesday, not Wednesday.
Why?
No, Wednesday, because I get my little puppy. Tuesday night from Coda.
That was my dog's name.
Little Coda.
Yeah.
So we can divide a 3 out, right? So we're factoring the numerator. So when you divide that 3 out, it goes in front of the parenthesis and I have x minus 2 left. So it just factors the numerator. Yes. Right? I'm dividing that 3 out. Right? You can divide the 3 out of the numerator.
Okay, I'm bearing with you.
You got that.
I'm bearing with you.
And then this thing is over. So let's say we factor the numerator to make it clear.
What if it's not a numerator?
Then you factor the denominator.
Alright.
There's no great way to say that. So 3x minus 2, numerator factored over the x minus 2. Step 2 now is to take the denominator, set it equal to 0.
So then you just plug in. No.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're going x minus 2 equals 0. And this is what x cannot equal. So you can do domain at this point. Or else accept 2.
Wait, why can't it fall in 2?
Because if we put 2 right here for this x, 2 minus 2 is 0, and you can't divide by 0. So that's why it can't be 2.
So let's say that 2 is a 3, is that what it works? So
3 right here?
Yeah.
Then this could not be a 3.
Yeah, but it would be a 2.
It could be a 2, yeah.
Okay.
So whatever that bottom is, just set it equal to 0. And then the last step is just canceling out. We have 2 of the exact same things, numerator, 2 denominator, which just cancel. So if this is 2-part answer, domain part 1, part 2 is just 3, right? Because those x minus 2's cancel. Look, x minus 2 over x minus 2 cancels. What do I have left? Just that 3. So that 3 is right there.
Well, you need 2 answers to this.
Yeah, domain is 1, and then whatever you can cancel, you cancel.
Domain, that with symbol, and you're good.
Yes.
What was the answer for number 7? X minus 11. X minus 11.
X minus 11, you want to write them down real quick? X minus 11, number 8 is negative 2x minus 2.
So let me, how was it?
You'll see, watch the video. And we can go over it once we're done with this. No problem, I just want to keep going. So we can factor the numerator, right? We're dividing these two, x squared minus 16 up top. So when we factor the numerator, a times c up top, so negative 16 on top, 0 on the bottom, 4 and negative 4. The last one we just did, we factored a 3 out, right? Because this is x squared, that's why the factoring is different.
So
Yep. Sure. Depends on the problem. That's why I can't give you a definitive yes or no. Just kind of depends. So the numerator here becomes x minus 4, x plus 4, over x plus 4. So we just did step 1, factor everything. Step 2 is set the bottom equal to 0, but question first, Kaylee?
So why is the x squared not in the x minus 4 and x plus 4?
It is, right? Because x times x, that's the x squared. And then if I multiply the two outside terms, so 4 times x is positive 4x, negative 4 times x is negative 4x. That's why there's no x term, because it cancels out. And then you multiply these two, negative 4 times 4, that's a negative 16.
Okay, I know that.
So we set, step 2, set the bottom equal to 0. So x plus 4 equals 0. This is step 2. Step 1, we factored everything. Here we subtract 4 from both sides. And again, it's what x cannot equal. So then you can just write domain in front with the all reals. Right, set the bottom equal to 0. X plus 4 equals 0 from here.
X plus 4 cancel out.
Yes, it will. So last step to get the second part of the answer, right, the x plus 4s do cancel, and we're just left with x minus 4. So if that's part 1 of your answer, part 2 of your answer is just x minus 4. Remain all reals except negative 4.
So which plus 4, x plus 4 did you do? Why did you do like that?
Same thing, top and bottom, I can always cancel. So the top's x plus 4, bottom's x plus 4, I can just cross them
I
off.
understand that.
Okay.
Like, the number 2.
Right here.
Yeah. Like,
I took the bottom,
yeah, you said it's 0.
right? Because if I plug in negative 4 in here, negative 4 plus 4 is 0, can't divide by 0. That's why. You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is she wearing it today? I thought we were
F of g of negative
I'll
5.
finish this ribbon.
What's that?
I'll finish.
All right. See you, Delia.
Bye-bye.
Later. Okay, I like rewriting it like this. F of g of negative 5. Because that tells me to plug negative 5 into g first. So I just write g of negative 5. So here's my g function right here. So I plug in negative 5 for that x and that x. Right, so I already did it right here. Then it's negative 4 times negative 5 plus 3. So we get 23. So g of negative 5 equals 23. So here's how I think about this, because sometimes this confuses you guys, right? So when I did g of negative 5, my answer was 23, right? And then I take my 23 and plug it in for the f. Okay, so next step, I do f of 23. So f of 23 is negative 2 times 23 minus 7. To get negative 46 minus 7, which is negative 53.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Right, so technically it's a two-part answer. So let's say on the test you screw up that answer, but then you do this part with the incorrect answer correctly. I won't take off a ton of points, right? Because if you just make a stupid mistake up here, I'm not going to just pretend like this didn't happen. I'll probably take off like 1.5 out of 4 points. So it's still punished, but not that bad.
Can you go back to
Yeah. Answer was negative 53.
Okay, so.
You good? Anyone else need a moment on that? Okay? So, g of f of negative 5, so f of negative 5 equals negative 5 plus 2. Actually, I could take one of these two questions off. Would it freak you out if you had a 13-question test?
No.
13 should be a lucky number. You don't think it's all in your head. You want 13? Oh, it's your lucky number? Or you just don't mind it? Is that going to freak you out, Maggie?
No, I didn't think about it until you said it.
Maggie, I'll just add one question to your test, just for kicks.
Maybe like 2 plus 3.
Yeah, right. What is 2 to the negative 18th power plus
I did
6?
that wrong.
Okay, so when we did f of negative 5, we got negative 3, and I take that negative 3 and plug it into g. That all rhymed, that was disturbing. Okay, so g of negative 3 equals, you must use parentheses. I still have some of you punks that refuse to use parentheses, and with a big fat smile on my face, I take points off. So use the parentheses so you get it right. So g of negative 3 equals positive 9. So yeah, I could take one of those two questions off because it's kind of the same thing, just different functions. Yeah, because you get them right, right? Yeah, totally. Right there in the little thing. Yeah. So, how do I know how to do that? So, just even up here, right, I look at that, it tells me to plug into the f first. So then I take that negative 5 and I plug it in here and here, right? So I plugged it in here and here. Yeah, because I take the answer, right? So the answer here was negative 3, and I take that answer from the first part and plug it in for the second part. Okay? That's like the key moment right there. It's like getting that down. The answer from the first, plug it into the second function, and you're good. Next one. 14. It is easy, right? So this is why I missed this day, because there's hardly anything to this section. We could make it a whole lot worse, but I'm not doing that.
I know the whole reason that thing.
Yeah. So switch x and y. That's how you do these for the inverse. The method, switch x and y, solve for y. Step 1, switch x and y. Step 2, solve for y. So, solving for y, we have 3 to both sides. You get x plus 3 equals 7y squared. I know yours good. Just for the inverse, that's how you do it. Switch x and y. Divide by 7, next step. So then we have x plus 3 over 7 equals y squared. And to undo a square, you square root. You have to have plus or minus in front. Highlight that, do whatever you got to do so you will remember the plus or minus. Right? And then your answer is just y equals plus or minus x plus 3 over 7. Okay? Alright, I'm going to stop that.